Hey, what's up? This is PRP3 The Author. I'm also known as Paul Russell Parker III. You might recognize my name from one of my books. I've written 6 and I'm working on 7th. For this clip, I want to talk about indie authors or independent authors and why that might be a viable option for you to pursue in your future book endeavors. If you're watching this video, you're probably an aspiring author and you have a story idea and you want to get that book out to readers because you know they'll love it. Now the problem is you probably don't know how to go about it. You don't know what path to take. You don't know who to contact. And you're probably searching all over the internet trying to find the answers you need, but you're not getting any information. At least information you understand right now. So what I want to do is kind of outline the different paths you can take to get published. Now the first path I want to talk about is Vanity Presses and how you can go about getting your book published with them. Now, Vanity Press, they won't say Vanity anywhere on their website or in their title, but they're a publisher who you pay up front for a contract and a package deal. Now, this package deal will include aspects like formatting your document, editing your document, making your book cover, and giving you copies for your own personal use for book signings or stocking shelves. And they also get a cut of all the royalties per book sold. Now, the benefit of going through a Vanity Press is you don't have to do any of that work that I just stated. Also, you get their publisher name in your front matter and on your platform's website that you sell your book through. One thing that you don't pay for as part of the package is advertising and marketing, because you're going to find that no matter who you have a contract through, you're going to do that yourself as the author. Now, the next path I want to talk about is traditionally published presses. Now, these publishers are the ones that everyone wants to have, and the problem is everyone wants to have them, so they're getting bombarded by tons of manuscripts every day. Literary agents are getting bombarded by requests to take on new clients all the time, and they can't take every client on. A publisher can't take every book and publish it because there's just so many requests. And they need to invest in your book to make it marketable, because if a book is not marketable, it doesn't have mass appeal, they're not getting a return on their investment, and they're not going to want to take on a pet project or a small focus book just because, unless you're famous. They need to make the money back because they're giving you an advance and they're getting a portion of all royalties that you get from each book sale. So if they can't make money with your book, you can't make money with them, so they're not going to take you on. It doesn't mean that you have a bad book. It just means that they might want something that's more appealing to everybody in every market. Now, there are smaller presses, medium presses. They're not all the large 5 publishers out of New York. There might be one in your town you don't even know about that focuses on quilt making. And if you make quilts and you write about making quilts, they'll probably take you on. They may only have like 4 or 5 authors on contract, and they're going to pay you in advance. It might not be much, but they should pay you something. You're not paying them, so remember that. Also, they're going to get a portion of all your royalties from each book sold, the majority of the profits, because they're doing all the work for you. Now, if you do go traditionally published, if you're lucky enough to have that option, you're still going to be doing the marketing and advertising on your own. You're not going to have the comfort of even the big publishers out there, coming out of New York or Paris or London. You're not going to have their power behind you getting your books marketed and advertised, because they just don't do that anymore. From everyone I've talked to that went that way. So that's an option you can take, and that's probably the best option for your book, because those publishers, even though they don't market or advertise, they're still sending your books out to bloggers or reviewers to get reviews to help market that, or to get that book appealing to a lot of the masses. Because if they see that the book has been blogged about or reviewed by a major publication, a major newspaper, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna get that book. It's gonna be on some kind of bestseller list. So if you can get that option, pursue it. Don't shy away from it. Don't feel, worried that it might be too much. The only drawback I see from pursuing a traditional publishing contract It takes a very long time to get your book published, from when you submit the first manuscript to when it's ready for the market. I've heard anywhere between 1 to 2 years before that book is ready for to be put on shelves. So if that takes too long, there's another option you can take. Now, the third and final path I'm going to talk about is indie authors, and why that could be something you pursue. Now, I'm an indie author. An indie author is someone who has no contract with any publisher, because in essence, you are your own publisher. You decide, what the cover looks like. You have all creative control. You do all the editing. You do all the formatting. You do everything from start to finish to get that book ready to get to the market. You find the platform, and you get it uploaded, and you get them sold, you get them marketed, you get them advertised. Now, the benefit of going indie is that you're on your own time. You don't have any deadlines. You work at your own pace. So if you work full time and you can't write as a full-time author at this point in your life, it might be a great option for you until you can get a contract that pays your bills so you can quit your day job. It's good for people with young families, people who have two, working spouses in the household. It's good for someone who doesn't want to lose creative control, because if you do submit it to a publisher, publishers can change aspects of your story without your approval. They can decide what the cover looks like without your input, and they can even pull a book from a shelf without even telling you, and you just lose a lot of the control, and then you have to wait for the however many years that you signed the contract for before you can get the book back and do it on your own this time. So there are lots of pros for it, but there's also some drawbacks. Drawbacks is you are an indie author, and indie authors have existed since the early 2000s or so, and in the early days, scam artists were really involved in the industry. People would publish books, but they were really pamphlets, only 3 pages long, and they would get the same amount of profit as someone who would publish a 300-page book. So it was really unfair, and these people weren't paying editors, they weren't paying book cover makers. They were going and making a haphazard cover. They were putting out very bad quality work, and it affected the reputation of every other indie author out there, even to this day. Like some readers won't give an indie author a try or a chance because they had a bad experience in the past, and it's ruined their whole experience with indie authors. And they'll tell people, don't read that book unless it's published by a real publisher, because our reputation has been tarnished. Now, what I have to say about that is, people should not worry too much about it, because, as the indie author industry grew, so did the market around it. Now, there are people who exist now that help you get your book formatted. You can pay someone to format, you can pay someone to edit, you can pay someone to make a cover for you. There's all these people involved in the industry that are there to do all the things you don't want to do, or you might not know how to do. And you can end up with a finished product that's just as polished and nice as a book that's been traditionally published, and people won't know because it's indie, so they might not give it a chance. But if they do give it a chance, they might discover, wow, this is a great book. I didn't expect it to be so so polished, so edited, so flowing, so great. So it's a gamble if you want to go indie. You can. It's pretty much the easiest option you can do, unless you don't like doing the other work that comes with getting your book ready to be published. You can still pay people. So there's really not much difference between going indie and paying for a Vanity Press, other than you control your rights and you have all creative control, and the Vanity Press has all of those rights and all the creative control. But you also get to pick your editor. You get to pick your cover designer, and you also get input in what the cover should look like. So there are differences, and I would say that don't limit yourself, and don't let your book idea die on the shelf just because you don't want to go indie. You want to wait and keep resubmitting to different literary agents to get a traditionally published contract, you know, you can end up waiting years while your book story idea just, you know, sits on a shelf. Don't let it sit on the shelf. You know, any option that's available to you, you should pursue. Now, if you're one of the lucky ones who get a contract right away, or even decide to go with the Vanity Press, do that. You know, you can always start off indie and then go Vanity later on. You can start off as indie and then go traditionally published later on. You can do vice versa. You can start off traditional and go indie later on. The main idea I want you to get from this is that you shouldn't stop. You should never give up. You know, no matter what path you take, you should take a path, no matter what it is, to get your book out there, because there's someone that's going to enjoy your story, whether it has a publisher name in the front matter or not. Someone's going to want to read the book. It's going to touch someone's life. And if you can get it out there and just satisfy one person's need for entertainment, you know, you're doing a great job. You may never reach levels of fame and acclaim that's out there, but to at least one person, you may be, you know, their a favorite author of somebody. So don't hold back, and don't be too intimidated by the process. You know, the main thing is write your book, write your story. I hope this answered some of your questions and cleared up some of your confusion, and hopefully that you'll be able to pursue the path you need to take now. You have a better idea of what you need to do next. I also hope that you kind of pursue being an indie author, because I believe it's an awesome opportunity that we have as indie authors, where we can present those stories that in the past they would have just died on the shelf. Now, with the option we have, the ability we have to create a story and get out there to readers, is something that never existed before. Before, people were told what to read or given options only by what major publishers thought would be, you know, marketable to return on their profit and on their investment. Now it's there are so many different stories that people probably don't believe in or were interested in reading before because they weren't told to read them before. These stories exist now, and people have so many chances to lose themselves in all these different literary universes. All these universes, millions of universes that people create every year that would have never existed before because they would have never been given the chance to exist before. So keep that in mind. Be an indie author if you can. If not, I mean, if you can go traditionally published, awesome, great, get that contract. If you want to pay a Vanity Press, do it. As long as you get your story out, that's all that matters. But you know, if you like having a challenge, and you like doing a lot of hard work, you like all this labor intensive stuff, go indie. You know, see how it works out for you. You know, if you do it one book and if you don't like it, you know, you can be traditionally published for the next book. So, you know, give it a try. So if this helped at all, if you enjoyed the video or if it gave you some answers that you're looking for before, go ahead and like and subscribe, and then go through my other videos, because I have a whole bunch of different kind of content that you might find helpful or interesting. Thanks.